you said you slowed down and you took your, why don't you take over here?
What
This is major. This is, by the way, this is major. What you're hearing here,
huge case,
unless you're ready for this, maybe they can't handle this, because the truth is, this isn't beginner stuff. We're talking about a very advanced principle. Joel Bauer here with Peng Joon, who flew from Malaysia to Los Angeles because someone said maybe studying with Joel Bauer would provide the answer that you were looking for, because you'd spent a ton of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, you had memorized all the scripts, you had tried to sell product from the stage, online, you'd been successful, but live, it was a challenge. You dreamed of meeting Kiyosaki, meeting Tony Robbins. You visualized yourself potentially being on a platform and being able to help the audience really transform their life. And it just didn't work until you arrived in Los Angeles and walked up to me at break and asked me this question, which was?
How would I know that it would work?
Because you said it seemed too simple to just put your family into this money matrix formula and to tell your story in your own authentic voice, without manipulation, without metaphor, allegory, or any contrivance, and just to tell your truth and not have to push out the energy and be manipulative. And I said to you, I haven't had a failure yet if they implement. I said, will you trust me? Because if you won't, I'll just give you back your money and you can fly home. And you said, I don't want my money back, I want it to work. And you trusted me. And so let's start with the end. How did it feel on your first platform with a full room of people, rather huge room, a lot of people, where you just told your story using my process? You touched the people, you left the stage, you used testimonials, you were gentle, and they ran to the tables without your speeding up, without your getting aggressive, without a drum roll, without loud music, without back scratching, and you knew that you were going to be able to over-deliver and impact their lives, because you knew that your system worked, and you knew that you were going to take care of them and nurture them and support them. You were coming from integrity, unlike so many others. And now you saw you had this process where you didn't need to be anyone other than Peng Joon. Mm-hmm. How did it feel when the room, 20, 30% of the room, out of the gate, ran, throwing their money down? Credit card, American Express, cash, to get your system.
First off, I'm going to say that the feeling was indescribable, because the events that I did before that was very different. So back in the day, this is like a long time ago, I was told that in order to sell, you gotta have high energy wins, and you gotta, you know, do all these weird things on stage. So back in the day, I was like, you know, for the first 17 people, I go to the back room and do these things, you're gonna get this, and nobody moved. But I was told, like, if you want to be successful and if you want to get people to invest in what it is that you have, you gotta be doing all these things, which I followed by the T. I was doing the same exact movements, the same scripting, like by the book. Like, I'm a pretty good student, okay, and did everything in my book, just didn't work. So I just want to share with you, like, the things that really made the difference. And now that I've done like more than 200 plus different events, speaking, thousands of hours on stage, like, what were the things that really made the difference that I may not have realized the importance of it back then?
So when I first presented these ideas to you,
yep,
even though you hear them,
yes,
and even though you're a great student, it doesn't mean you're not standing in your waistline.
Correct. Yes,
So-
because it
so-
sounds too
yeah.
simple. Okay, let me give you an example. The first one would be you talked about the importance of sharing your story, your backstory. So back where I was from, my background was I was told that you don't waste time with all these different things. You go straight into the meat and potatoes. You give them the content, and as long as you're able to give them great content, they'll be able to make the informed decision and buy. So that was something. So it sounds good on paper, but this type of information is perpetuated by people that like to teach theory, but they're not really a practitioner themselves. And unfortunately, I couldn't tell the difference. I wouldn't know. So I did that, and when I first heard about that from you, I was like, why would telling my story about how I grew up on the farm and what my dad did, why would that make a difference? So that was huge. Like just a simple thing like that.
And it makes all the difference.
It makes all the difference.
Yeah.
So like for a person that's listening in for the first time, they might not see the importance of the backstory, but it's huge in building rapport. Which I think brings me to the next point. You talked about how you said something like, "I closed you even before you were born." That was huge. So like the first
before
time,
your parents conceived you.
before your parents conceived
before
you.
they met each other.
So that was huge for me. It's like I realized that the entire presentation is close, and that's something I say all the time now. It's like it's not about the close. The close is not about close. The offer is not about close. But you're closing the moment you walk on stage. Like your entire presence is the close. So that was huge. What was huge also was, and I'm trying to be, if you notice, I'm a very analytical person. I like to put structure. The third thing is the use of testimonials and how you strategically spread it all out throughout the entire presentation, where it's not just towards the end. If you take a look at what many marketers and speakers do, is they have got the teaching session, and then they've got a selling session, and then there's this weird transition in between. And that's when like 20% of the room leaves.
Right.
But what you do, and I didn't realize it was huge back then, is the ability to integrate your teaching material with the testimonials to confirm what you just taught works.
I call it punctuation.
Punctuation, right? Yeah.
And now,
Yeah.
the new revelation, which I have not taught as of recent, because it's up my numbers crazy, is now, not only is there a confirmation testimonial, but I pre-frame everything I teach with an expectation testimonial. So the first testimonial is someone who had this radical epiphany, their life changed. For example, a young man was judged based upon the way he dressed when he walked into a department store. And I'm teaching a principle of wrapping one's package, how they dress. He dressed the way I showed him, and he was given massive attention and respect. That sets up, and it's the truth, absolute truth. Then I teach the module, and then I cap it with a woman who just made $100,000 that she attributes directly to only one thing, how she wrapped the package. So it's a framing of the before and the after, and it's done throughout the whole presentation, which does something that you're brilliant at and that you learned from me that you said was so important. We never give them a reason not to buy. So I overcome all of the objections, about 70 objections, throughout the presentation. So at the end, as you mentioned, we don't have to do what other presenters do, where they're like rushing and transitioning to this, what happened?
Yep.
Why am I being pushed now? We let it simmer.
Yep. And another huge one, which is like number 4 now, is you talked about price. Desensitize the price. I don't remember that, right? So you would have these huge numbers, and now when you talk about the investment, they've been so used to seeing these big numbers that now, like, it's insignificant.
And investment, by the way, even if we got ice cream just now,
Yep.
we're here in Malaysia and we're just downstairs with Shu Ying, and I complimented the people behind the counter, and I just said, thank you. This is really, you care about what you do, and we feel like we've invested in this ice cream.
Yeah.
It was a great experience. And so I don't use the word price ever.
Yep, that's right.
Tonight, bought a phone, for example.
Yep.
And how much is the investment in your phone? So these aren't just principles for closing. It's that everything should be an investment, implying and suggesting that there's going to be a payoff, that it's going to be the best investment they've ever made.
Yep.
And so when you change the languaging,
Yeah.
and you lock it into your intention, so it's part of your life. Am I consistent with what I teach?
Huge. Yeah, always consistent.
Yeah. And am I a student of my own process? So are you. I see you refining it all the time.
Yeah.
And how do you argue with the results? You had an 8-figure year last year. You'd already done 8 figures a few years before. Money is no longer a concern, and you now get to touch and impact all of these lives because they're going to spend their money on something. When they spend it on you, you over-deliver. They're able to make serious income online, and they're able to do something they love and empower others. That's what people don't understand. This is not about learning to sell from a narcissistic standpoint where we want money. No, we want to help these people. Have I ever spoken to you ever about my wanting to slay the room or take the room apart?
I think that's huge because like one thing that was huge for me, like, you know, that's a constant reminder as well. Like I see so many people saying, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna crush it. And I thought to myself, like, if I didn't understood how you behaved, I might have probably behaved the same way. But I've learned from you that you never ever say that. And modeling what you do and how much you care for your students and your audience, that's and how you do everything, it's huge.
Yesterday, you were here, right here on the boulevard. We had about 360 people, 380 people at the room at the peak.
Yeah.
And you were there during the close. And you were standing behind me on the stage, where I invite sometimes the graduates and students. We're peers now. I mean, we're mentors. I mentor you, you mentor me. I learned from you as well. I learned a lot from you. There's a lot more for me to learn because you're very brilliant at what you do. Online, I really don't think there are 5 people on the planet that know how to do what you do now. So I do what I do really well, and that's close from the platform. Close online as well. Close. Yesterday you were watching me and you hadn't seen me live in a couple of years, right? And you said you slowed down and you took your, why don't you take over here?
What
this is major. This is, by the way, this is major. What you're hearing here,
it's huge, okay,
unless you're ready for this, maybe they can't handle this, because the truth is, this isn't beginner stuff. We're talking about a very advanced principle that some of the world's top closers who aren't so top at their game anymore, they can't figure out where their numbers are going into the gutter. And I'm revealing the secret here right now.
So like for me, the thing that I'm always looking at what you do is the languaging. So like I would say that's like number 6, languaging. When I was here and just looking at and listening to Joel do his magic, I realized that there's always that layer that many people might not pick up on. So, and how you slowed down and how you did the close and how it was just a balance between the storytelling and the audience and the journey and the struggles and the fears, that was huge. So like the thing that was huge for me as well in understanding this whole thing was really modeling languaging that works. Because here's the thing, I actually thought to become a better trainer, I had to learn NLP, or something I learned a couple of years ago. And it was the only course in the world that I signed up for that I have not completed. I actually went for an NLP course, flew all the way to the US on day 3. I don't know if you've heard of this story before, have you?
No.
Okay, so I signed up from like, it's supposed to be one of the most legit NLP courses out there. I went to university to do it. It was like a 9-day event, and it was horrible. It was dry, it was boring, and I can stand quite a lot of things, and I've been through a lot of courses, but it's the only course that I paid in full that I never finished. Because I was so frustrated at why is it that this person who's supposed to have mastered the language isn't a practitioner of what he's teaching. Like I was sitting there and I'm thinking like, change our state, get us to stand up, ask a question, you know, shift us. But this is someone who has mastered NLP, the language, and is not applying it in what he's teaching. So to me, that was when like, NLP is a scam. Right? And I never bothered to study NLP since. But back to what you do is like, just by looking at your languaging, there's so many things. We're just talking about embedded commands and all these things. What is huge is that you don't have to study some 9-day NLP training to be effective. That's the point I'm trying to make here. I never finished it, and it's all about understanding the language.
Language is mission critical.
Yeah.
It's not about closing the audience. When they invest in our process, our product, our service, our support, a combination thereof, they're investing in an opportunity. They're embracing an opportunity to transform their life. Not only to make money, but to have a sense of freedom and independence. No more codependence. To run their own business, to make money online, offline. It's got to be done elegantly. And the language is the connective tissue. If you don't have the right words in the right place, and they don't come from your actual life experience, and they're not compartmentalized with each image, the images are vital, pictures, the story, and I make it very simple.
Mm-hmm.
You love structure.
Yep.
And I gave you structure.
Yep.
And you had a place for everything.
Yep.
And you had a sequence. Isn't it true that there's a psychology in the sequence? And if they move things out of the sequence, though they still may be effective, nowhere near as effective, establishing rapport, building credibility, securing attention,
That's right.
being self-effacing,
Yep.
that's part of your story. You got to knock yourself down, or they will knock you down. And it's better for the audience to want to pick you up and help you. We need to show our insecurity, our lack of perfection. They want to know that we went through something to get where we are, because they are transitioning, or they're at crossroads right now.
Yeah.
So language is
Key.
It's not everything, but if you don't have those skills, you're not going to have dramatic results.
Yep.
And the beauty of the way I teach language, because I used to teach a 30-day master track, and you've seen me, you've been at my events when they're 9 or 10 days. Now I've learned that 4 days is the science, and I've been able to integrate all of it, and I'm seeing faster results.
Yep.
They can't figure out why it's so simple. And they can't figure out why they just saved the 15 or 20-year learning curve. Because I can take someone that knows nothing. In fact, when the Aaron Sansonis and the Glenn Twiddles and the John Chows and the amazing women that I've trained who end up being the best of the best, they can't, it's so hard for people that come in that have already been trained to let go of what they know. Because the process is very unconventional. I remember Mark Victor Hansen and Robert Allen losing it with me during private consultation. And then they finally suspended their disbelief. I said, if it doesn't work, I'll give you your money back, Mark, Bob. They used it the next day, quadrupled their sales. Then I trained their trainers, and they created this huge organization. That's the amazing thing. The skill set that you and I have, this amazing skill set that enables us to give people permission to invest and embrace a passage that will shift them forever. The way they're perceived, the way they're conceived, the way they are received by that audience. It changes the full perspective of them in the marketplace. And it also changes them because you online now, you're unstoppable. And you didn't even think you had this voice and this wisdom necessarily. And look how amazing you've become now. Now, you can shoot literally 100 videos in a couple days.
All in one take.
In one take.
And you gotta know that my first video, like, I don't know, Shooting will tell you, I probably took like 25 takes for a 30-second video. And I think like, that brings us, I think we're at point number 8 now. Number 8 is the ability to start from like this was huge. Like I remember you saying it, and I was like, this is brilliant. When you said something along the lines of start with the emotion first, and then the words will come, and that to me is huge.
Yeah.
So because I'm a very analytical person, I would tend to write out my entire script and try to memorize it, whether it was a sales video or whether it was, you know, a webinar. I would have to have all those things down. But I realize now that when I've practiced enough, it's all about starting off with the emotion, and the emotion will allow me to find my words.
Mm-hmm.
And that was huge. I mean, like on paper, like on surface level now, I know it sounds easy. Like, I don't know what's the process you use to get people to understand that, but that was the thing summarized in the sentence that was huge for me.
I use something called my 10 pick, and I have them take 10 images that represent anywhere from birth to their current age. Yeah. And if they will do this work and create that backstory, which is just coming up with the truth, it changes their whole identity about it. And I don't even know if you've done the 10 pick on an intense level.
I probably did.
You did? Okay.
I remember that.
Because it's vital. I know with my online membership that when they go through that and they do the granular work on that, which they can do it in a day or a week, it has a profound impact. Suddenly their life has dimension, and they feel as though they have something of substance to share with others, and it kind of connects them to anything and everything, bad or good, in a way where they can transition through it. And even the bad in their past has a place.
Yeah.
It's like a timeline, and the timeline makes everything make sense versus not understanding why you feel the way you feel. Mm-hmm. When they do that work, it impacts the whole presentation. And it speaks to that moment. Now, this may sound very complex here, but it's actually quite simple, and it falls together. So when you recently spoke, it was the greatest experience of your communication career. Mm-hmm. It was the Russell Brunson. It was in front of over 3,000 people. And I said to you earlier when we were shopping, I said, were you nervous? And you said, I was on fire. That doesn't mean nervous energy.
Yeah.
You were prepared. You had something of massive value. There was everyone like an explosion. You showed them a video of you when you absolutely, it didn't work. Mm-hmm. And when they experienced the you up front, there was this incredible, integrated, compassionate, intelligent, proven, transferable skills. You were enlightening the room with a process that became the talk of the convention. And then you showed them where you came from. They jumped out of their chairs. How did it?
Every one of them.
Has there ever been a greater moment in your life? Forget about money. Because the money followed that without you even trying. You weren't even selling anything.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. That standing ovation, I took every second, every moment of that in. Because that's when I knew I was able to serve that audience at the highest level. It wasn't, sure the strategies were good, but it was beyond the steps. It was beyond the technical know-how. It was beyond all of that. It was beyond the strategy, because I gave them transformation, where I was able to shift their beliefs and their mindset by just showing them the journey that I went through. Amazing.
And they came up to you so appreciative and so loving and so respectful. Am I right?
Yeah.
And it didn't stop. Like you couldn't go anywhere. If you went am I right? If you went into the bathroom, people were walking up to you.
Sure.
You couldn't use a urinal without a crowd. And it was that way for me when I was in India. Like when someone sees someone who essentially appears to be, I'm going to use this term with apprehension here, enlightened. Because you've become comfortable in Pengjun.
Yep.
And some people, even though this sounds weird, most people haven't found themselves.
Yeah.
They haven't found their voice. They don't really know who they are. They don't really know what they offer. They don't have their ultimate, what's your purpose? It's not about your passion. There are many passions. What's your purpose? You love doing what you're doing.
So like this thing is huge for me, okay? I think this is like item 9 now. And then the reason why I'm numbering these things is so that when you choose to like repurpose it into like some sort of thing, there's like structure, like the 10, 20, 30 things, biggest takeaways. So 9 is this, okay? Is the difference between you and some sort of Toastmaster, speaker, trainer person is that many of these other trainings, they talk about the importance of like body language and posture and how you need to speak a certain way and show up a certain way. But I can say that my biggest thing from you is that it's not about that. It's, I could be in like some weird position right now, and be comfortable.
Yeah.
And I think like the highest level of confidence that I realized is not about how polished you are or how you shouldn't be slouching, but just being confident being you.
Your sales will go into the gutter when you get slick.
I think the only thing that you talk about when it comes to body language is, do you remember what it is? Don't play
with your balls.
That's right. That's like the only thing.
And by the way, I don't mean that sexually, sensually. Even a female, don't put your hands in your pockets. It looks like you don't know what to do. It is an indication of insecurity.
So that was huge for me, because back then I would have thought even to do a video like this, we would have to sit like that. And you know what I'm talking about? I thought that in the speaking world it was very similar, that you would need these hand gestures, because that's what I was taught, then you would need to, like, when they say something, you need to say thank you, and we talked about that last night. And all these different things, it was very mechanical. I thought that to be a great speaker back then was about the mechanics, that it's about these things, but it's really not. And I don't know, is there a process that you do to extract this, and how do you instill this confidence? Because obviously that's an art. So
well, you've been there, and you see people that are absolute newbies, and also some of the world's top names who are very uncomfortable, because I remember when Aaron Sansoni walked up to me, who is an exceptionally good sales trainer in the art of sales. And he said to me, Joel, I'm kind of uncomfortable because I train people. I train them to speak and sell, and I'm coming to you because I believe from what I've heard you can up my game.
Yep.
But I said, are you willing to be bad? Meaning it's going to feel awkward, but can you empty your cup? That's what Joe Hyams said to Bruce Lee. When Bruce Lee was pouring the tea, and the tea overflowed. And
I didn't realize it was Bruce Lee. But
well, Bruce Lee used this this is a very old concept. But literally, Joe Hyams, L.P. Summers' husband, a very famous writer who wrote Zen in the Martial Arts, met with Bruce Lee, and his objective was to get Bruce Lee to begin to train him in Jeet Kune Do, which is essentially the way of no way, meaning that there is no style. You do what's best in a given moment. You move like water. You flow and you adapt. And you said to me, a moment ago, you said to me yesterday, the most important thing that I shared with you, by example, is that there are no mistakes, only the ones you acknowledge. That no matter what happens, the blue screen of death, the electricity goes out in the building, someone has a heart attack, an aneurysm, a stroke, which you thought it happened to me before, twice. You thought it just happened to you. And why don't you talk about that in a moment?
Yeah.
But Bruce Lee was there, and he started to pour some tea on the front lawn of his home for Joe Hyams during this interview. And he poured the tea, and Joe held the cup, and the tea overflowed, and it was hot. It wasn't going to burn your skin up, but it was hot. And it began to, and Joe said, the cup is full. You're all over. And Bruce Lee said, are you willing to empty your cup? Because I can't I cannot fill you up with new concepts if your cup is already full. I must determine whether you are capable of being teachable. We were talking about teachability index earlier, and you're very, very teachable, even now. Even as one of the world's elite communicators and closers and online marketers, without question, you are open and I am open. I learn all the time, and I learn the most by helping my students succeed. I'm no better than the success of my student. And I always say, that I don't care if they like the event. I don't care if they're impressed by me. All I care about is that they succeed quickly and produce results. Judge me by your results, because we're no better than the results. This is not about entertainment. Talk to me about that most important thing that I just identified, which is the ability to trust your instrument and just, no matter what happens, it's as if it's planned.
Yep. So I would say that's number 10. Number 10, like a huge differentiator is like, be like water, right? I think Bruce Lee said that as well.
Be like water, my friend.
Anything that happens was part of the plan all along. Like I've noticed you do that so effortlessly, and again, being I need to have things in place, analyzed. I always thought that music needs to be played a certain way, and like what if this doesn't go according to plan? And I realized that it's up to us, the speaker, the trainer, to be the show, to understand that no matter what happens, and it's all part of the plan. Like even if there's a blackout, even if the internet connection is slow, there's always something that we can do to make it as though it's part of the plan, and just flow along with it. So like I'm constantly integrating that. So like if let's say I don't know how to figure something out, and rather than looking stupid on stage, what I would say is, guys, look, I don't know how this thing works. And what does that tell you? It tells you that even like for me, I still am horrible with the computer. I'm not a tech guy. But the good news is you don't have to be great at tech in order to make money online. So I'm always weaving and integrating things that's happening in the room, even though it's not part of the plan. Integrate it as though it's part, and be like water. So that was huge in understanding and just looking at how you show up at your events. Like anything that happens for a reason. And it was huge.
Yeah, yesterday something dramatic happened, and or no, actually it was a coaching event that I just did right in LA before I flew into Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and I was doing a coaching event, and one of the PA systems in the room for a advanced coaching day, mastermind day, I couldn't get to work. And I turned to the audience and I said, how many of you realize that maybe this is part of the plan? Because with 22 people there, all high-ticket players that earned the right to be there, I didn't need a PA system. So I just rolled with it. You don't allow it to affect you. I always say to the audience, and I think you remember this, and I think you've used this phrase, don't judge me by how things appear when they're going well. Judge me by how I manage things when they're not going well, because there is no difference.
And I remember now that when you said that, I was like, wow, that's powerful.
Should we reveal here, which is really high level? This may seem like a very simple discussion here, and this was Peng's idea, and I was amazed that he was willing to be so kind as to sit down, because if you hear things from me, okay, so I'm a marketer, I'm a trainer, I'm out there. Here's now my peer. Was my student, now he's my peer. We work on the same platforms. I've flown to be with you in Vietnam, in Bali, at your high-level events, where I've spoken by your side. Literally, both of us sometimes doing a presentation together, which was magical and enjoyable. And I remember once when you said to me, generate $500,000 to $700,000 now. And we did it. And we literally, like I said, how much time do I have? He go, none. And I said, do you trust me? And you said, yeah. I said, well, go stand there and turn on your mic and I'll show you the no close. And then you use that process.
A couple of times.
You applied that to your back end and transcended all numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So he integrates beautifully. He doesn't just listen, takes it in very deep, processes it, applies it. He's got a magnificent filter.
I think what's huge over here is that, and this is just, you know, elaborating a little bit more on that teachability index, is that I have many friends who are marketers, did well, generated 7 figures, and was living the life, you know, 7-10 years ago. But I realized that many people, when they become successful, their teachability index falls, because that's when they think like, I already know it, and that's when their growth stops. Like, so many of these marketers, I couldn't, like, they stopped their growth, and therefore their business just remained stagnant for many years. So I'm constantly just reminding myself, like, what's my level of teachability right now? And that's why I can constantly reset, come from the angle of a student, and because I'm highly coachable, I'm highly trainable, and if I pay somebody for advice, I'm not gonna question, I'm not gonna doubt, I'm just gonna be like coming from the angle of being a real student. And I think that's a very important piece to understand, that that's so crucial when it comes to learning and growing.
You know, I heard you say to someone that for every dollar I've invested in Joel, I've made
a lot, over $600.
So $1 equals 600. So if I said to you right now, I would give you 1,000 times what you spent in training with me, which would be a lot of money because you spent a lot of money training with me, and that would be
a lot,
millions of dollars. And I was serious, but you had to let go of everything I taught you.
It's crazy.
You had to surgically remove all of it. You couldn't use any of it. Anything you learned from me, you couldn't use. But you're being handed a few $1 million. Would you take that proposition?
Do you know, you realize what that means? It means that I wouldn't have the confidence to be on this camera to do this video right now. It means that I wouldn't have the ability to drive a car while shooting a video in one take. It means that I wouldn't.
I don't recommend that. We're not recommending that.
We're not recommending that, right? You'll need to sign a waiver first. You know, I wouldn't have the ability to do these webinars. Like, why? Like, here's the thing, okay, Joe. Like, we just having dinner earlier and talked about this. Like, if I lost everything right now, like, I know that to save my business, all I needed to do is to do a webinar a week from now, fill it with Facebook ads.
Yep.
And these would be like the main skills I need to do. Learn how to build a webinar funnel, how to speak close on that webinar, and fill that webinar with Facebook ads. And if I didn't have that skill, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, you could lose it all and rebuild it like that.
Through one webinar. That's all it takes.
Isn't that powerful?
Yeah.
And we can travel anywhere in the world. So Penjun, I have my bag right there. And that's all I carried on the plane. I have a little suitcase with a couple black suits, white shirts, ties I don't even need to wear. I come in for less than a month. It is realistic that the time I spend here will generate over $1 million in revenue, and the producers will be taken care of. All of my expenses are paid.
Yep.
I have no bills of any kind. I have guarantees also, etc. And I do this for over 10 years now. I get to come in and be with my friends. I get to meet my students, David Schwab, Jack. I get to meet with Matthew Grimm, who moved to Singapore. I get to catch up with a couple thousand students. Whoever comes and shows up, I'm getting letters every day. How fantastic is this business? You've been to South Africa, you've been to 22 countries plus. You have people that are dying to take you to dinner and be with you and just discuss and talk about the process, and they all want to share their message. And can you think of anything you'd rather be doing than what you've done and what you've crafted? And how much you're learning in the process, evolving.
Yep, that's something I tell my students and my audience all the time, that I think that being a student and learning by attending webinars, events, reading the books, listening to tapes can only take us that far. But the next level of growth is actually by teaching it. Because by teaching it, it forces you to grow to this new level. Mm-hmm. Right now, my personal development is no longer going for some seminar on personal development. It is in my own events where I'm discovering myself. That's my highest level. And I believe that the key to any personal development is, after a certain level, it's no longer about learning, but actually implementing and then eventually teaching. Because that's when you can really serve an audience and serve them at the highest level.
Did you have, and I want them to know this was not prepared. We didn't lay out a structure.
Nope.
We don't have a teleprompter or a queuing device or a camera that's scrolling an app of any kind. This is us having a very laid-back conversation.
Yeah.
And for those of you that are observing this right now, listening in, and you're not taking notes, and you don't think or believe that these are significant distinctions and revelations made by Peng Joon or myself, and you think that this is just kind of a background conversation, we generate millions upon millions of dollars. This has given me a level of freedom in my life. I'm not new at this. I've been on platforms for 50 years since I was a kid. Mm-hmm. And I've deconstructed my life and been able to transfer it to others, where in a 2-day weekend or a 1-day event here, I'm doing a 1-day event here. What am I gifting these people in a 1-day event?
It's crazy. And
there's no fluff.
The problem with this, and I can tell you very honestly, is because it's free.
Yeah.
Like, we all know that when it's free, it means like, oh, it's not worth anything. And that's the problem. Like, I don't know if you're ever watching this video, if it means you're a graduate, but that's an issue. But
and guess what? They find out they're wrong. Yesterday, at hashtag Joel Bauer event, because they post there if they want to.
Yeah.
Woman said she'd been abused her whole life going to events, trainings, and she said this event so over-delivered. I had another woman walked up to me from the front row yesterday here at the Boulevard Hotel in the showroom. She walks up to me at break and she says, she starts naming names. I paid $5,000 for this, $10,000. You just taught in 1 day more than I've learned from all the for free. And of course she applied for acceptance at my master class, mm-hmm. because she said, if this is free, it feels good to know that you have the best of what you have to offer. And even if they don't have money, you can still take care of them. See, I don't believe in the tease and agitate. I really believe in creating real value like you do and over-delivering. And then, if they can afford, and they can, people believe they can, but they're embracing a new life. And they're embracing the specialized knowledge that they've never received before in a traditional education that's going to make all the difference in all dimensions of their life, their communications, personal and professional, online and offline. They're getting the thing that will make all the difference. And quite frankly, if they don't invest in what we have, they will never trip on it. And they will never figure it out. You've spent over $500,000 easily in your specialized education.
Yep.
I've spent untold numbers on my specialized education. And we get to give them only what works and omit everything that doesn't work and save them a 15 to 20 to 30-year learning curve. In fact, I believe that what you know now I was talking about this dinner. You need to up your numbers because right now, no one should have access to you unless they're willing to invest huge numbers because you have the answers, you have the track record, you have the competence, the team, the infrastructure. And look at what you spent to figure it out. And so when someone invests in you, and we were laughing at dinner about this, I said to you, how long did it take you to do something? You said 20 minutes, and I said, no, a lifetime. Do you want to talk about that?
So Joel talks about this.
You don't have to tell the story, just talk about the fact that at every moment is the result.
That's right. I mean, a lot of times people might see, like I create a Facebook ad that goes viral in like 15 minutes, but they don't realize that it took me like a decade to figure it out. And I think that speaking is the same thing. People look at speaking as, here's the problem, people look at the result. They look at what you do, they look at what I do, and they see the fancy pictures on Facebook and Instagram, and the conclusion is, oh, it's probably skill, it's probably talent. I don't know about you, but I can tell you that, and you've seen me, I didn't have the talent, I didn't have the skill. Speaking is something that's learnable and trainable. But the problem is, most people do not want to go through that phase of being bad at something. They try something, most people are dabblers, most people are shiny object seekers. But if you understood like the time it would save you on the learning curve, rather than trying to figure things out on your own, but rather than doing that, but learning and doing a system instead. What is a system? A system is just something that's proven if you follow the steps, right? And yeah, it's going to save you the learning curve. So either way, you're still going to pay. You either pay by going out there, making mistakes, and not realizing what was possible, or pay somebody who has a system, who has the answers, and shave off a decade, 2 decades off the learning curve.
Well, I mean, you and I, we offer money-back guarantees, and even in my most advanced training masterclass, I tell people the first day, if you don't feel like these are the most extraordinary people that I've handpicked, that I've accepted for this program, leave. Do you know how many, well, you remember you trained with me several times.
Yep.
Did anyone ever leave?
Never.
Did I offer them their money back on the first day, the second day? Crazy.
Yep.
And it's when you're over-delivering, and you know you have the answers because you're giving them the best of what you have. And again, that elimination of 15, 20-year, 30-year learning curve. Can you imagine you're outside your body, you're someone else now, and someone finds out what you know. Think about what you can give to someone now. Think about how many years and the pain and suffering that you can take, trial and testing and split tests, and the money they don't need to spend, and you tell them exactly all the pieces, and everything's integrated, and everything is so inexpensive, and they've got these huge numbers rolling in. 2 of his students walked up to me yesterday, and they said, we're Penn Jun students, and he recommended you, Joel, and he said that you were essential. And we so love today, but I said, how are you doing? He said, because of Peng, we're crushing it, which is not your term. I said, you're monetizing? They said, oh yeah. And these are very young men. And they said, we're really, because of Peng, we're clear on our process. Everything works. And they were just like elated. And it's great. I meet your students all the time, and they hear that, and I just know that there is nothing I would rather be doing on this planet. You know, the big saying is, what would you do for free if you had all the money in the world? I'm doing it. And sometimes you've said to me that, you know, because you know how hard I work behind the scenes. Yep. I know how hard you work as well, but we really care. Yeah. And I'm very hands-on. Not just with the coaching with the clients, but preparation. I'm anal about the details. Yeah. And I'm not even doing it for the money. I'm doing it because I want them to have a certain kind of experience, and I want them to get there faster. And I want them to be more successful without the hassles that I had to go through, and the anxiety, and the trepidation, and the frustration. And I know that you care in the same way, because you're the team you've built and the level of detail and the systems you've put in place. Success to me is incalculable. You can't calculate failure when you have a process that's proven. Success is now predictable. Marketing is now predictable. Viral is now, these are things that we can control.
Yep.
And what we went through is a very expensive education. And to save you all that time and all that money, what is that worth? To not rack your brains and find out 40 years from now that you did it all wrong. Who do you go to? Who do you listen to? Person who's already done what it is you want to do. And ain't that the truth?
I think the summary of it is this. If you're somebody who's watching this video and heard Joel speak, some of the things, it might seem too simple to be true. Like, you might tell yourself, like, that just sounds too simple for it to be effective. And that could be things like, you know, you got to tell your story in a way that's authentic and it's true to you, right? You know, things like that.
Well, we're not showing them the mechanics here. We're not showing them the processes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, those, I think we've covered 10 things in this video. Those 10 things made a huge difference for me. And that's just like the surface level based on what I can think of off the cuff, being here at, what time is it now? Like 2 in the morning? Like,
Oh, I didn't realize that.
What time is it?
1:30?
My time is still a different time.
I don't know.
So it's like 2 in the morning right now. Okay, so like that's what I'm saying. No plan, no preparation.
Wait a minute, that watch should tell good time. I think
Yeah, no,
you go buy a
it's-
car for less than that watch.
It's a different time zone.
Actually, we got a car lot on our wrist here. Isn't it nice? Isn't it nice to not care about the money anymore? And we didn't come from silver spoons. We did not.
I did this exercise like 2 years ago, and I told myself, like, because a common question is for most entrepreneurs is like, what do I need to do to scale my business to go on to the next thing? So most of the time it's income driven, which is what I do. But there comes a time where you can only spend that much. And I tell you, like 2 years ago, I told myself, like, I work hard. I want to be able to buy anything I want. So I went on Amazon and eBay, and I told myself, I'm going to spend the next few hours just shopping to buy anything I want. And in 3 hours, she will tell you, I bought a gaming keyboard that's an Overwatch Razer keyboard. I bought top of the line mouse. I bought top of the line headphones. And it was all under $2,000. Like, I bought everything I wanted. Like, it was like $1,500 or something.
And everything you just described
And
is part of your business. They're all things that help you to.
But it was that was like for gaming. It was like just to play computer games. But like, that's it. Like that's what I'm saying. It's like I think that many times we're all obsessed with these goals, but sometimes it might be easy to lose track. Like, why do I want that income goal in the first place? Because there's only that many monetary things we can buy. And after that, it's like playing a computer game where the numbers don't really matter anymore. And I think like the next level, and this is something I tell my team all the time, is it's no longer the income goals. Yeah, sure, it's important when running a business, but now it's more about just the result we're able to generate for other people, because that is what is going to help us scale our business to the next level.
Would you like to know what it is that I want?
Sure.
What it is that I wanted, and it's never really changed. I wanted my children, all 3 of them, to be able to pursue their dream, even if they failed, but to be able to pursue it. For Chanel, it was acting. For Brianna, it was 17 years of dance to be a professional ballerina. For Sterling, it's music. Each one of my children has been able to pursue their dream. I wanted for my wife to be able to either continue in her career, because she was incredible, and she wanted to raise the children and be present as a mother. and not have to compromise that time. And I wanted to pursue my dream at evolving and not hiding behind the tricks. Because I was a professional entertainer, magician, and that was in large part the result of insecurity. I would do things that made me seem interesting. And I finally evolved to the point where I realized that I didn't need to do those things anymore, even though I was a consummate pro and, you know, wrote books and trained people all over the world. And it wasn't important. I now am in the business of never showing someone what they can't do and only showing them what they can do. People must relate to us, and then we give them permission to do something in a fraction of the time through a proven process that is completely transferable and sustainable, and it produces actual results. And there's no trickery or duplicity or manipulation involved. It's about total transparency. Talk to me about that at the very end here. This importance that I've always had in you know, because I think I got you, may have suggested to you, I know I did, to kind of let people see who you are. And people are in fear of that in many cases. Or they don't know how to show who they are because they don't know who they are.
Yep.
This is a self-development program. As far as I'm concerned, this is all self-development as well, because you get to evolve. And a lot of people aren't evolving. It's as if they're zombie-like, going along to get along.
Yep.
This process that has been so lucrative and so empowering for us empowers us to grow further. Aren't you learning all the time?
Yeah. And I think that if you take every single thought leader out there that's making a difference, whether it's income, impact, you'll realize that when I do these events and when I am in the green room with these people, what I've realized is that they are no different from you and me. Like
big names.
Big names.
Around big names.
Like I can, you know, they still, you know, just normal, ordinary people who have their fears, who have the fear of, you know, embarrassment, fear of not wanting to look stupid, fear of failure, just like you and me. But the only differentiator is the decisions they made, the actions they took, and what if it was just that between what you have right now and the life you actually wanted to live? And I was just telling Joel, like maybe just about 12 years ago now, I was conditioned to believe that the 1,200 ringgit, or rather about $300 per month, that was the life I was going to live because I didn't do well in school and get good grades in university, even though I was a good student before that. And sometimes it's just not realizing that. It's just that one thing, that that your life could be totally different 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now if you just made the right choices, took different decisions and action steps. And just like that. And you would have a totally different life.
And look what you did. From making a little and not necessarily having a dream at that point, you changed your whole life. You determined your destiny. You designed your destiny.
Yeah.
And now you're an internationally renowned, respected marketer with a great track record, and people online raving about you and how much they love you and how you made a difference in their life. And I see you at the events, even my own event yesterday, you came by and whole congregation of people loving, wanting to meet Peng Joon and letting him know what a difference they made. We want you to have what we have. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah.
We want you to have freedom. We want you to have your voice, your legs. We wants you to be able to monetize your message to market match, to know what that is. And Peng will tell you, there's an audience for you. He's built products and processes for the most peculiar. Someone playing, what was the game,
Farmville.
Farmville. And
you know, times has changed so much. You take a look at every single marketplace right now. So whether it's playing the guitar, whether it's wine tasting,
yep.
It could be dating, anything. There's somebody in that marketplace right now that's the thought leader, that's crushing it, making millions of dollars a year from that topic. And the question is, why can't that person be you?
That person can be you. Is there one final point that you wanted to make? Because you said to me, I just want to sit down and talk about the distinctions and some of the things you've taught me that have made a huge difference in manifesting my income and my freedom. Because Joel, you said that no matter who I trained with, and there have been a lot of great trainers, there have been some really brilliant people you've trained with, you said if I didn't have this answer, it might not have ever gone further. You needed this answer.
I want to end with this, okay?
Yeah.
So just about 2 weeks ago, I did my event in high-level event. We had students flying from different countries. I had my parents there because they wanted to go on a holiday. And I got my parents on stage. And they were not prepared. But I asked my parents to say a few words about how I was growing up. And I asked them a question, because I wanted the entire audience to hear it. I asked them the question of, did you ever expect that I would grow up being a speaker? And both of them said, no. No way. They've seen me grow up from this shy, introverted kid. And I still am this shy, introverted kid. But I realized that whether you're shy, whether you're introverted, we all have a voice. We all have a message. Where there's something that we can do to be able to help somebody else, inspire them, so that they can improve their lives. And we have a choice to sit back and do nothing, which is like what most people do, just that's the easy way out. Or we can hone our skills and become better at it so that we can actually use that to impact somebody else's life. And that's a choice. So don't blame it on skills or talent, because that's the easy thing to do. It's easy to say, well, of course, Peng Joon, I want to be able to do what you do, but I'm not an extrovert, I'm not good with words. I wasn't good at it either. But I was willing to be bad at it in order to be good at it. And I think that's a key difference.
Peng, he said to me when I got to KL, he said, he calls me, I'm on the airplane, and I connected to the Wi-Fi, which didn't work very well. And I get this message, and he says, can I pick you up at the airport? Is there anything I can do for you? How can I support you? This guy invested in me. He went to all my trainings, hired me for personal coaching to create scripts and closes and to modify an approach to take him so that he was willing to do whatever it took to be the best he could be. And here he is offering to, he's got a beautiful heart. And I said, I don't need anything. I said, I'd love to see you. Maybe we have a bite together. He shows up at my event. He says, I want to talk to the audience. And Xu Ying, this magnificent woman in his life, brilliant, brilliant woman, is at the back of the room, and she hears someone who knows Peng Joon going, oh, he believes in this guy. We need to do this. You need people who believe in you, trust you. You'll never have enough people raving about what you do. The process works, and you're not going to build trust in 6 minutes or 90 minutes. You build trust by giving your word to an audience, a group of people, over the course of a year. You deliver on time, you exceed their expectations, and there's a point, and they're not even aware of when it happens, where they trust you because you've earned it. And then they become raving fans. And they invite their friends to follow Peng Joon and tune in to a young man with a dream who's making and has made his dream come true. What's your dream? Dreams come true when you have one. Peng Joon did not dream of being a farmer. He'd already been prepared for that. He had another dream, and his father honored his request to allow you to pursue that dream, and if it didn't work, you could fall back on the other option. And his parents are retired. They adore him. He travels the world. The audience adores him. And he's doing what he loves and getting paid like a celebrity or royalty. We want you to know something. We're not special. We just made really effective choices and a lot of mistakes along the way that were very costly. You can do this. You can redesign, retune, rewire, reposition your life. Again, how you're perceived, how you're conceived, how you are received by an audience, a very large audience. You can do this. You may choose someone else. Hopefully they have the experience, the guarantees, the track record. Or maybe you'll choose Peng or myself. We just want you to find an answer and live your life on your own terms so you can take care of your family and those you love and live your legacy and potentially leave your dynasty. I'm Joel Bauer. This is Peng Joon. We both hope that in making some of these apparently simple distinctions, it'll motivate and inspire you to tell your story and to empower an audience with a product, service, support, or combination thereof that will transport their lives and save them the 20 to 30-year learning curve. Anything you'd like to say in closing?
That's it. I've closed.